Mozambique is gearing up for elections on the 15th of October, but there are growing concerns that violence could disrupt the vote. This despite a recently signed peace accord. The Institute for Security Studies has held a seminar to look at whether the elections will be free and fair and what factors could influence the outcome of the poll. So for more on this, I'm joined in studio now by Zenaida Machado from Human Rights Watch Mozambique. Zenaida, thanks for joining us this afternoon. In fact, it was Renamo, the armed wing of Renamo, who was basically saying that they actually do not recognize the recently signed peace accord, and in fact if they do not renegotiate the peace agreement, that come October 15th they are refusing for anyone to go to the polls.
Yes, it was a fraction of the Renamo party, and as a matter of fact this is a problem that has been there before the peace deal was signed. It was known that within Renamo there was an armed fraction that wasn't happy with the process of negotiation for that specific peace deal, and they are now threatening to disrupt the elections if the peace deal is not renegotiated, and if the government doesn't cancel the elections that are due to take place in 12 days.
Apparently it's also because of the growing tensions that came as a result of the death of long-term leader of Renamo, and that is Alfonso Tlakama. Is that true?
It is true, and I think the main challenge for us that are watching developments within Renamo is that it's not yet clear what exactly is the problem within the opposition party. We know that both the current leader of Renamo, Mr. Osufu Momat, and the leader of this fraction that calls itself the junta of Renamo, military junta of Renamo, which is a man called Nyongo. They were both very close to Tlakama, the late leader of Renamo. But the problem the Nyongo has is that he doesn't think Osufu Momat is a legitimate leader. He wants Osufu Momat to step down, even though he was freely elected by the party. And he doesn't think Osufu Momat was the right person to negotiate a peace deal with the government on behalf of the party. Where the problem is that Nyongo takes with him a group of armed men that have already started causing some disruptions on the roads. We have so far counted about 6 or 7 violent events around the road that connects Zimbabwe to the port of Beira. Nyongo himself has not claimed responsibility over all attacks. He claimed responsibility over 2 of them, but he has made a point several times that if these elections are not cancelled, if the peace deal is not renegotiated, and if his leader, Renamo, does not step down, then he cannot guarantee that Mozambique will have safe elections in 12 days.
I mean, on the other side of it, the opposition is also accusing Frelimo of actually attempting to rig the election, saying that there may be opportunities for vote rigging. Do you think that is the case, especially when it comes to Frelimo's perspective?
I think the accusations of rigging of elections have been there for the past 25 years, since Mozambique started having general elections. The first election was in 1994. Renamo claimed fall. In 1999, it was the same thing, and so on until today. And since the elections in 2012, yes, we have seen that their response to what they call rigging of election has been violent and bringing the country back to conflict. I think this time around, for the first time, there is clear evidence that the process itself has been irregular. We have seen, for example, the case specific of Gaza province, where the numbers show that 80% of the population in Gaza are adult people and are ready to vote, which is problematic. And the whole issue and the whole controversy around the numbers in Gaza province, which is a very stronghold of the ruling party, Frelimo, has led to the resignation of the leader of the department of the government of statistics, the ones that are supposed to do the numbers, because they themselves have written a letter to the Electoral Commission asking them to correct the numbers, because what Gaza is showing is not going to be possible until 2040. So there is an irregularity there, and the fear at this stage is that knowing that Renamo is less patience with the government led by Frelimo. It might happen that when we get to 15th of October, when the elections take place, they might use the situation of Gaza to justify claiming that the entire process has been rigged.
I must ask you this, Zenaida. I mean, for the fact that Mozambique has been plagued by violence since the withdrawal of colonial rule in 1975, one would wonder, why is it that yet another African country is failing to get it right, and that it must always be marred by violence? I mean, why is it that after the colonization aspect of it, after getting its independence, then we find itself unable to negotiate even peace deals? It's almost about power, but the violent takeover of power, it says something maybe even about the effects of colonization on the actual leaders themselves.
It says also something about the level of impunity that we have seen in Mozambique over the years. This is a country that first lost a president in 1986. Today, nobody knows who killed the president. In 1989, during the Civil War, these same Renamo members were giving an amnesty in the hope that the war would end. The war didn't end. In 1992, ahead of the big peace deal that lasted for 20 years, there was another amnesty law for both sides, the government force and Renamo guerrilla rebels, if you want to call it. And then in 2014, there was another peace deal. And recently, last month, or better in August, when they signed the peace deal, there was another amnesty law, a broad amnesty law without an investigation, without a clear clarification of who did what and why, without looking at those who have been affected by those conflicts all over the years. It's about 40 years of independence, recurring conflicts affecting most of the times the same people in the central region of Mozambique, Sofala, Gaza, Zambezia province. These people have not received any assistance. These people have not been consulted about the peace process. These people have not been consulted about the reintegration of Renam men after the peace process. And meanwhile, what we have seen over and over the years is the two sides sitting down, negotiating a peace deal and negotiating a amnesty law that goes together with the peace deal. Well, I wouldn't be surprised that the next thing, the group that is now represented by Nyong will also want amnesty for the crimes that are already committing.
Zenaida, we're going to leave our conversation there for this afternoon, but thanks a lot for joining us and shedding some light in terms of the upcoming elections. Will they happen or will they not happen?